India a step ahead as to why well-educated must play a greater role in improving society. What the country needs today is a new kind of an Indian who has different qualities of behavior from the Indian today. Which are those qualities I would speak about first? You can't take anybody forward unless you inspire them. And you can't inspire them unless you have qualities which he does not have. And he thinks that these qualities is something that you should have, and he didn't know about it before. Sometimes I call this as the new mindset. Mindset is very important. Being a strong person physically or in a strong position is not sufficient to do what you have to do unless the mind is a liberated mind. Now, for example, take the question of strength. In a circus, there will be a cage, big cage, and 5-6 lions will be allowed into it. One thin ringmaster will walk in and he'll close the door behind him, and then he'll order the lions to climb up the bench, which they will. Then he will order them to open their mouth, which they will, and he will put his head in the mouth of each of these lions, and the crowd will clap at this great act of bravery. Question is, why these lions don't bite his head off? Why don't they maul him when they have so much strength? Because the circus brings up that lion when it was a pup to prepare his mind to obey. And by the time he becomes big and well-fed and strong, his mind doesn't know that he has this strength. And that is why he obeys. Now, I've always, when people used to ask me this question, that why does Manmohan Singh not stand up to Sonia Gandhi? Now, the reason is, and of course, Manmohan Singh in Sanskrit also means lion, by the way. Because Manmohan Singh has been brought up this way, that he must obey. I've known Manmohan Singh for almost 45 years. I knew him as a professor. And he was a man of personal great quality. And that personal great quality was in terms of decency, culture, honesty. But he would never challenge authority. So in one word, he had personal character, but not national character. National character is that character which is necessary for building a new India. Personal character, you have personal qualities, that doesn't make the changes in society. Similarly, if your mind is prepared in a certain cowardly way, even if you are in large numbers, you will not be able to defend yourself. In a jungle, if there are, say, 1,000 goats and one tiger comes, the majority is with the goats. But the moment they see this single tiger, they all get frightened and run hither-thither till the tiger chases one of them and makes up for his lunch. So many people ask me also, why are you able to do all this as a single person? It's because I've got a mind of a tiger and they've got a mind of a goat. So when you want to take this country forward, first you learn to improve yourself. First you learn to be something of great valor. We have had in our society such individuals. Take Rana Pratap. He did not lead you to any victory. In fact, he lost everything. And in the end, he had to hide in a forest, and for food, he took grass, dried it, made it into paste, and made chapati out of grass, which has a lot of protein, and lived on it. All that Akbar asked him for, and Akbar sent his cousin from Jaipur called Man Singh, that accept me, Akbar said, as the Badshah of India, as the Emperor of India, and I will give you back everything, all that you have lost. And his cousin argued this, see how well I am living. But he didn't agree. He said, no, I will not accept him as the Emperor of India. Then his cousin said, you're going to spend all your life eating chapatis made out of grass. What are you going to get out of it? He says, what I'll get out of it is future generations, mothers will name their sons after Rana Pratap, but on your name they will spit. That is enough for me. This is what he said. And our society, our culture worships such people almost equal to victors. Shivaji was a victor, but his status is the same as Rana Pratap. And Shivaji himself used to say, I am descended from Rana Pratap. And you'll see many other such examples. Rani Jhansi, she didn't lead you to victory. A great heroine. In your Karnataka, there was Rani Chennamma. Subhash Chandra Bose, he didn't lead you to victory. But he is considered almost on par with Mahatma Gandhi. So our society originally was this way. And that is why we became such a prosperous country with tremendous intellectual attainments that people used to, from all the world, used to come to India and learn from India. The Chinese travelers came, then the Europeans came. In the beginning, all of them were completely agog with India. India spread its ideas to the whole of Southeast Asia without conquering anybody. It was purely by preaching. So, therefore, I would say that the first thing you need to do is to develop a mindset. And the mindset requires certain dimensions, which I will explain to you just now. Now, in our first quality you have to have is when you work towards a goal and you don't achieve that goal, if you feel depressed about it, then you have not a developed mind. If your mind is, I will work towards this goal, if I don't achieve it, I will try again. This was the quality of many people. Some we like, some we don't like. Muhammad Ghori came maybe 16 times, 15 times, I don't know, but number of times. Each time defeated by Prithviraj Chauhan. But Indian tradition was, if you apologize, you forgive him and send him. And so Prithviraj Chauhan sent him back each time. He kept coming till he came to learn that Indians will never fight, go to battle before sunrise. And from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., they will have a bath, they will do all their ablutions, etc. So the 16th time or the 15th time, whatever time it was, he attacked in Prithviraj Chauhan at 3 a.m. and caught everybody in the bathroom. And therefore he was successful. Of course, he got assistance from Jai Chand, the father-in-law. And Jai Chand wanted to take revenge against his son-in-law, helped Muhammad Ghori. And then Ghori killed Jai Chand, severed his head and had it displayed. But see the mindset there. He wanted to take revenge. He was successful in taking revenge because Ghori defeated his son-in-law. But in the process, he opened the doors of India to Islam. Look at the mindset of Godse. He killed Mahatma Gandhi because he was anti-Hindu. But who did he empower in the process? Jawaharlal Nehru, the biggest secularist or pseudo-secularist, whatever you want to call it, who completely retarded the process of Hindu Renaissance in our country. Hindu Renaissance doesn't mean that it is against Muslims. We have certain minus points in us which has been accumulated over centuries. We want to get rid of it. We want all Hindus to think of themselves as one. And incidentally, science supports that. According to DNA studies, all Hindus around the country, whether they are Brahmins, scheduled castes, anything, whether they are North Indian, South Indian, they have the same DNA. You can read the Journal of Genetics published by the University of Cambridge or the University of Texas, Houston, or Mysore University. They all have done studies on this, and the DNA shows that we are all the same. Yet, the British, who understood that this was a dangerous idea, developed this concept of Aryans and Dravidians. There is no such word as Aryan in our scriptures. There is the word Arya. Arya means gentleman only, civilized person. The word Dravidian was actually invented by Shankaracharya as a sandhi of two words, thra and vid, which means thra means three and coastlines. The Bay of Bengal coastline, the Arabian Sea coastline, and the Indian Ocean coastline. Where the three join together, that whole portion is called Dravid, which became Dravid. But the British converted that into two races. Dravidians were first ruling India, then Aryans came from the Khyber Pass, conquered them, drove them to the south. And they started a whole movement called Dravida Karagam. It means Dravid organization, which said we are a different people. And they decided to do everything different from what the so-called Aryans of the north were doing. We celebrated the Ram Leela because Rama went from Ayodhya and killed Ravan, and Karunanidhi decided to celebrate Ravan Leela. He said he is our God. I did some research on Ravan and found that Ravan was born in a village called Bisrak in Noida near Delhi. Then how did he end up in Sri Lanka? He went to Mansarovar and there he did tapas in the name of Lord Shiva. Shiva then gave him a boon. With that boon he said, which shall I conquer? And he said his cousin Guber had beautifully developed Sri Lanka. So he went to Sri Lanka, captured it and became its king. So for long years, Mr. Karunanidhi was celebrating Ram Leela till I convinced him with documents that Ravan was actually a North Indian and that too a Brahmin. And now he doesn't talk about Ravan, but he is still not reconciled to this North Indian called Ram. I remember once I was arguing in Supreme Court saying that the Setu Samudram project, which was a pet project of Karunanidhi, should be scrapped, and we certainly will not allow Ram Setu to be broken. The canal, the causeway which was built on Ram's guidance. And the court, of course, accepted my point of view, and so that proposal is now finished. But in the process, when I was arguing, the papers quoted me as saying what is the origin of Ram Setu and so on. So Karunanidhi got upset, and he said that who's Swamy to call this Ram Setu? It used to be called as Adam's Bridge. Was Ram an engineer? Which engineering college did he go to? Next day he fell ill. And he had to be admitted to hospital, and the name of the hospital was Ramchandra Medical Hospital. So I wrote him a letter that thank God that Rama has got an MBBS at least. Now, if this mindset is there, how can you improve the people of India? We are witnessing that same mentality, you see, in today's developments on the corruption case, where you have mobs coming from Tamil Nadu surrounding the court as if the judge will change his decision because there are all these fierce mobs. I am therefore telling you that when you say take a citizen one step forward, you must know what you are going to tell him to do. After all, first and foremost is every Indian must feel as one. I will start with the Hindus first, and by Hindus I include all those religions born out of Hinduism in this country. They are separate religions. Sikhism is a separate religion. So is Jainism and Buddhism. But they were created by Hindus, and they took another religion. And the core ideas are the same. And some of their gurus fought for us. For instance, today there would not be this kind of Hindu population had not Guru Tegh Bahadur refused to submit to Aurangzeb. And what hell he went through. He saw his own disciples being sawed into two. And then ultimately his own head was chopped and put in Sisganj. So, I am saying that why are they the same? Because the DNA is the same. DNA is the only guarantee of ethnicity. When people say Sri Lanka has got an ethnic war, no, they are Tamils and Sinhalese. Sinhalese came from Bihar and Orissa, and Tamils came from Kerala and Tamil Nadu. So we are the same people, and I tested this once. I've told this in many, many meetings. When Raj Thackeray was saying that Bihari taxi, UP taxiwalas are taking the jobs of us Marathis and was smashing taxis. That time I asked a friend of mine, you are known to Raj Thackeray, can you get me a sample of his hair? Because you can test DNA through your hair or your skin or blood. So he said, yeah, I go to the same hairdresser as him. So I'll bring you. So one day he brought me a bottle of his hair. Then I paid 100 rupees to a taxiwala and said, can I take a sample of your hair? He thought it was a little nuts, but for 100 rupees he was willing to do it. And I sent it to a Hyderabad laboratory, microbiology laboratory, and the results came out that both the DNA of Thackeray and the taxi driver was the same. And I announced that in the public meeting that Thackeray also came from UP. And I'm ready to prove it on a platform. because you get mobile testing units. Now, the surprise is that Brahmins and scheduled castes also have the same DNA. Hindus and Muslims have also the same DNA. Of course, Christians too. People say, no, the color is different. Color has got nothing to do with race. Color has got to do with pigmentation's response to the sun. If you are near the equator, the sun's rays directly hit you. If you take out your pigmentation, your color will be white. That's what happened with Michael Jackson. He went to a doctor and said, take out my pigmentation, and he became a white man. So, I am saying, therefore, the first thing that must be in your mind if you want to motivate somebody, please give up all these distinctions, particularly this Varna classification. Why? Because it was originally meant for discipline to be followed. It was never birth-based. You have an authority of Lord Krishna in Gita saying, Varna Vyavastha is based on gunas. In our entire history, cultural history, you have a rishi, Maharishi like Vedavyasa who wrote the Mahabharata. His mother was a fisherwoman. Valmiki wrote the Ramayana. He was born in a Dalit family. Kalidasa, the greatest poet we have produced, began his life cutting wood of branches of trees, from the branches of trees. The greatest rishi we had, rishi of rishis, was Vishwamitra. And he was born in a Kshatriya family. And therefore I say, and of course I have told you that Ravan was a Brahmin. Ram was a Kshatriya. Ram killed Ravan, but the Brahmins don't say, hey, this Ram killed one of us Brahmins, and therefore we cannot worship him. Nobody can says that. Because the duty of these castes, Varnas, caste has got nothing to do with Varna. The Westerners confuse caste and Varna. Varna is a four-way classification. And even where there was at a period, particularly after the coming of the Buddhists and then the Islamic invasions, a section of our society which became untouchables, according to the principles laid down at that time, the children of scheduled castes are not scheduled castes. And I illustrate this by saying, Dr. Ambedkar, he went to Columbia University, 1916, scheduled caste person going to Columbia University. Remember, Ambedkar was not his name. His name was Mahar. Last name was Mahar. His teacher was a Brahmin whose name was Ambedkar. And he said, you can't progress till you change your name. Take my name. That's how he became Ambedkar. He went to Columbia, wrote a PhD in economics. And his thesis, by then contemporary standards, is top class. Then he went to London, got a law degree, came to India, piloted the Constitution, Constituent Assembly, the Constitution, draft Constitution, became a noted jurist. And people in Congress party call him Bhim Rao. They never gave him Bharat Ratna. It was the Janata party which gave him the Bharat Ratna. Jawaharlal Nehru went to Cambridge and failed. I don't think any Nehru has passed an exam. And in those days, they used to have for people coming from colonies a special degree called Gentleman Pass. So Jawaharlal Nehru got that. He came back to India and congressmen started calling him Pandit Ji. A man who failed the exam, Pandit Ji. The man who has a PhD, Bhim Rao. It is Ambedkar who could be called Pandit Ji by the old standards. So I would like, first of all, before you think in terms of improving society, improve yourself. Who are you? What is your identity? The identity is that of an Indian. Indian is an English word. It is a garbalized version of Hindu. It became Indian through the process, through the Greeks and then the British. The Chinese still call us Hindu. The Arabs who receive our people for Hajj, they call our people as Hind. And in Urdu papers, we call India as Hindustan. Iqbal wrote this famous song, Sare Jahan Se Acha Hindustan Hamara. He used the word Hindustan. Bharat is a republic. Hindustan is an identity. Though all those people connected with this geographical mass, they are called Hindustanis. And people get angry, but privately they don't, but publicly they do. When I tell Muslims that you are also Hindustani because your ancestors are Hindus. He said, how do you know? I said, DNA. If you want, I can prove it. But then I said, Farooq Abdullah told me, yes, I in fact come from a Saraswat Brahmin family. So I told him, why don't you say publicly this? He said, are you mad? The mullah will kill me. This separateness that is being created. So the first task you can take, small task, is make everyone feel that you belong to this soil of this great country and you are the inheritor of this culture. And the second step you can take is, in my opinion, advocate a common Indian language. That doesn't mean you don't learn English. English is an international language, not because of Britain, but because America adopted English and became a developed country, so the whole world is using English. English is an international language, so you must know that. Your mother tongue, you must know. If it's Kannada, Tamil or whatever. And a third language, with the time being can be Hindi. But its vocabulary should become more and more from Sanskrit. Why? Because Sanskrit words are there in every language of India. Again, I had a big fight with Karunanidhi on this issue. He said Sanskrit is a foreign language. Original Indian language is Tamil. And I am a Tamilian and you are Brahmin, you are not an Indian. That's what he told me. Then I said, please explain to me then why your name is Karunanidhi. That is two Sanskrit words. What is the Tamil word for it? So he says, no, the Sanskrit stole these Tamil words and made it Sanskrit. Then I asked him, what do you call election symbol? In Tamil it is called Chinnam. That comes from the Sanskrit word chin. Then I said, what is your actual symbol? He said, Udayan Suryan. In Tamil it is Udayan Suryan. In Sanskrit it is Udaya Surya. So I am saying here that over the years, you want to make one step forward, propagate the learning of Sanskrit. Why? Because today NASA, after doing 20 years of research, has said that in the field of storage of knowledge in computers, in a single language, the field of artificial intelligence, the language most compliant to the computer is Sanskrit, and therefore if you want to study artificial intelligence in NASA today, you have to learn Sanskrit compulsory in the NASA. Tamil has 40% words in common with Sanskrit. Kannada has 65%. Malayalam has 80%. Bengali may have a little more. All Indian languages have big amount of Sanskrit. You want to discover scientific terms, you can find it in Sanskrit. So for the time being, Hindi in Sanskritized vocabulary. Over the period, slowly it becomes Sanskrit itself. This is another thing you can do, propagate the learning of Sanskrit. Third thing you can do to prepare the mindset of the Indian is to propagate the correct history of India. What is the correct history of India? There have been 46 civilizations tabulated by the UNESCO. 45 are dead. Egyptian, Mesopotamia, Indus, all these are dead. But the 46th is the Hindu civilization. It is the only one that is continuing today for centuries. Hindus don't have any prophet. It's all books. There are difference of opinion. There's a Dvaita school and Advaita school. Shankaracharya said Advaita means that everything is Maya. We're all one. Everything is a grand unity. And whatever you see is Maya. One day he was teaching this in his ashram, and a mad elephant came into from the bushes, it came into the ashram, towards the ashram. So the Shankaracharya said, get up and let's run. So they all picked up their whatever, takht and whatever, and started running. So one student said to Shankaracharya, but you said everything is Maya, but you are seeing this elephant and running. So he says, who says I'm running? That is also Maya. So, I mean, the rich variety of thought that you have has made you something special. I had a student from Saudi Arabia, and I've told this story many times in many places, who one day asked me at Harvard, whether he could meet me after class. So I met him. He said, we are in my university doing a research, and my professors there asked me to ask you a question. I said, what's the question? He said that we are examining how is it that India is 80% Hindu. So I was taken back by the question. I said, what do you mean? So he said that Islam conquered Persia. It was that time ruled by Zoroastrians. But in 15 years after capturing Persia, we converted Iran, which became the new name, Iran into 100% Muslim. 15 years only. Mesopotamia and Babylon, which now became Iraq, we converted that to 100% Muslim in 17 years. Egypt in 21 years. Christians went from West Asia to Europe, and in 50 years they converted Europe into 100% Christian. But in India, 800 years of Muslim rule, 200 years of Christian rule through the British, and you're still 80%. How did this happen? This is the question we are asking. Because the history is different from what you are being taught. Indians never capitulated. They kept fighting in different pockets. Shivaji fought in one place, Rana Pratap fought in another place, the Vijayanagara Empire. You know how large the Vijayanagara Empire was, right from Karnataka, and ultimately took in Kerala too, through Tamil Nadu, all the way up to Orissa, the borders of Bengal. It covered more area than the Mughals did, and lasted 300 years. Akbar to Aurangzeb, which is the core of the Muslim rule, it is only 150 years. Yet our history books, there will be a chapter by each Mughal Pacha. But Vijayanagara Empire, one paragraph, in South India there was a civilization called Vijayanagara. Even people living in Bangalore don't know what is Vijayanagara. So I am saying to you, when you don't know your own history, how can you motivate somebody else? So these three things are the first thing I am saying. I am therefore putting to you what next you should do. We, first of all of you, I don't know whether it's true of IIM Bangalore, but IIM Ahmedabad, I went to give a lecture and met the students for dinner. And I asked them, why have you come after all this heavy competitive exams? Without exception, they told me, because once we come to IIM Ahmedabad and get the chap of MBA, we'll get a very good job. So I said, you have not come for learning marketing theory or financial systems or operations research or inventory control. So that's all right, that's for passing exam. But the chap of IIM means guaranteed job. Now it's a very tragic thing, because you can't spend your life just for a job. You want to do something, then you have to think beyond that. And I found this in Indians, even in America. In the classroom, after every class I finished, and the course I finished, I used to ask the students, now that you are graduating and you are going out, what kind of job are you looking for? Will you go for a job where you take risks and you might become like Rockefeller or Ford or the owner of Microsoft, or you might fall flat and go be out on the street? Would you touch that kind of job? Or a job where every year your salary increment will be increased by 2%, gratuity, provident fund, and at the age of 60 you will get it all, and you will retire, buy a house and watch television for the rest of your life. The American students used to ask me, what's the probability I'll fall flat on my face and be out on the street before I can answer you? But the Indian, without asking this question, used to say, second job is the best. So I used to say, but that's guaranteed poverty. Why would you want that? And they said, it is guaranteed. That's the important part. This craze for stability is what is the most dangerous. So first thing is, want to motivate somebody, teach him, encourage him to take risk. Not wild risk, but risk. You can never tell. But you can take risk only if your mindset becomes different. And there, I don't know about other religions, but I do know that Gita teaches you how to be happy. How to do something without suffering for it. It says that, Bhagavan Krishna says, you have freedom in this life only to take action. You have no claim on the reward of that action. If you do good deeds, I'll keep an account, and somewhere or the other, I will reward you. If you do bad deeds, you will suffer. May not be immediately, but sooner or later you will suffer. This is called the law of karma. Now if you accept that, then you can never be unhappy. Because if you have the satisfaction that I did exactly what I wanted to do, the action I needed to take, I took it. I did my best, I put my best ability for it to achieve this goal, but the goal was out of my hands, but I'm not unhappy because I've done my best. But most of us think in terms of, I am a failure because I'm incompetent, that's why I didn't achieve this goal. I can never tell, for example, that if your goal is not achieved, is that good or bad? I was a professor at IIT, full professor, at a very young age of 28. By Indian standards, that's really young because you could never become professor till 45. I don't know, Baidyanath might be an exception. But generally people become, it's a slow process. But I had already been professor there, so they had to make me professor here. Within 1 year, Mrs. Gandhi took the other Miss Gandhi, not this one. This one also has taken a dislike to me. She also took a dislike to me. I wrote a book against the Soviet economic system. I said you will always grow at 3.5% per year if you have a Soviet economic system. Bring in the market system, you will grow at 10%, which as a minister I was able to do. Later on, some 40, 30 years, 25 years later. But at that time, the Soviets had a tremendous influence, so Mrs. Gandhi was agitated. She denounced me in parliament. Everybody took the cue, and one day I was fired at 5 o'clock. At 5:15, I got a letter saying, "You are no more professor from 5 o'clock. I went and told the director, "How can you dismiss me like this? This is not a dukan that you can send out a chaprasi whenever you like." He said, "I got orders from the top, so you go to court." I went to court, but I didn't get immediate relief. For 22 years I fought in court, and I won after 22 years. And the IIT had to return all my back salary for 22 years. In the meantime, because I couldn't get a job and I didn't want to go back to America, Jansangh was a party in those days. They took a liking for my views on Swadeshi, on atom bomb and so on. They sent me to Rajya Sabha. And thereafter I came to Lok Sabha when the Janata came. And then I was nominated by the government on the board of governors of IIT Delhi, the very body which dismissed me. So now, if I was a normally brought up person, I would have been upset that I lost a professorship. But today, I feel that's the best thing that happened to me. So I would like to tell you, please work for a goal. Please put your best. Teach people that. But don't be disappointed if you do not achieve your goal, because that is not in your hands. So says Krishna in Gita. Now you'd be surprised that the corporate world today in America is begun to teach this philosophy to its executives. Why? Because they found that when people were holding themselves responsible for failure, there was stress. Stress meant heart attacks. They were losing a lot of good executives at the age of 45 and less. So ultimately they came to this. You go to Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram here in Whitefield. How many foreigners are there? All rich foreigners. Why? I myself asked some of them, why have you come? They said, well, we made a lot of money, but we are not happy. And what Sri Ravi Shankar says, now we know what happiness is. And what does Sri Ravi Shankar says? that results are not in your hands. And that has made them happy. You can see one thing in Google. There is a famous film actress called Julia Roberts. I don't know whether people have heard of her. She once came for shooting to Haryana, and then she said, I want to go to a particular ashram. So they took her. There she told the chief sadhu, I won't name him, a very well-known person, that I've got all the Oscars I want, I've got all the money I could make, but I'm not happy. And I heard that in India, you teach how to be happy. So he said, well, you'll have to stay here for about 2 weeks. And she stayed, so he taught her pranayam, yoga, mantras, and ultimately the philosophy of our religion. This you can see by going to Google yourself. She left India, went back to America, called a press conference where her husband was standing by and 2 children. She says, I went to India and I finally found out how to be happy. I have told my husband, I've told my children, and all 4 of us today are announcing that henceforth we have given up Christianity and we are Hindus. Now, I'm not saying that you have to become a Hindu to know this. Most of the teachings of Sri Ravi Shankar and all doesn't require that. But she was so overpowered by it. And one simple message. You have freedom of action. Do good action, somewhere you will be rewarded. Do bad action, somewhere you will be punished. With this philosophy, you can never be unhappy. Same thing in your class exams. You do your best. Study hard. Don't go to nightclubs. Don't touch alcohol. Don't touch drugs. So these are habits you have to have as a student. If you can do it and then study regularly. Before class, what the teacher is going to teach, pay attention in class, come back and revise what he has taught you. Then you won't have to study for exams. I have passed through all examinations, and on the day of the examination week, I used to be watching cricket. Because I had already prepared, everything was in my mind, because I was doing this on a regular basis. How people don't do any studies, and then the last minute they do it. So here again I'm saying this is a question of moderation of your life. Now finally, what is intelligence? What you are learning in IIMs is cognitive intelligence. Recognize how products are differentiated, recognize mean variance in stockbroking, inventory control. These are all cognitive sciences. But you cannot be a person, evolved person, till you not only develop cognitive intelligence, but 6 other intelligences which our rishis knew about it, but now is being taught in American universities of education, in the Department of Education. The second intelligence is emotional intelligence, which means how to present yourself to another person so that he doesn't get repelled by you, he doesn't get annoyed by you, he sees the force of your arguments, you convince him. A whole book has now been written on emotional intelligence. You can get that by going to Amazon. Just put emotional intelligence. You'll get not one but many books. Third thing is social intelligence. And that is to modify your aspirations in such a way that society also prospers. Now, that requires a new outlook. When I tell my friends about my early experience as a graduate student at Harvard, and I've told this to many audiences, and if you are watching my YouTube, you'll see it there also. When I started becoming graduate student at Harvard, my American classmate asked me, "Can I ask you a question about India?" I said, "What?" He said, "Why you Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi?" So I said, "I find that a peculiar question. Why you ask?" He said, "The man was not properly dressed. How can you follow him?" It's true, Mahatma Gandhi only had one langoti here, and his legs were bare, his body was bare, and people were following. I said, "In your country, you will have to be very well dressed to be a leader." He said, "Absolutely. His tie must be top class, his suit must be well, fitting, his shoes should be shining, and if he does, and he should have a proper shave. All these things, if he doesn't have, then we won't accept him as leader." You can see their leaders, all of them are very well dressed. Then I thought about their spiritual leaders. Pope, satin gown, diamond necklace, ruby necklace, sapphire necklace, his topi is full of jewels. Most of them must have been stolen from India, I suppose. So, but look at our gurus. They are one bhagwa kapda, that's all. There is Ramdev or there is Swami Dayanand Saraswati in Coimbatore or Shishi Ravi Shankar, all of them so simply dressed. So, what is it then about India that people you revere so much are not properly dressed by Western standards? In fact, I used to say when Chidambaram used to go to attend IMF, that be careful, don't go in this suit boot because they may mistake you for a butler or a waiter in a 5-star hotel. I'm very pleased to see Modi dressed like an Indian. So, I'm saying, what is it that about our culture that Mahatma Gandhi, Jayaprakash Narayan, and most of us in politics are very simply dressed, whereas not in the West? What is it about our dharma, our religion, that these sadhu sannyasi, highly revered, have just a bhagwa cloth around them? Then you go back and you see that there was a division of labor. That if you want to aspire to the highest social status, that cannot be done by wealth acquisition. It can be done by sacrifice and knowledge. If you have knowledge and you propagate knowledge and you have sacrifice, then people will revere you and listen to you. So, these gurus, they used to live in a hut in the ancient days. They had no property, no weapons. But the Raja himself used to go to him. In our system, the Raja was not the policy maker. In the Western dynasty system, there the Raja could decide when to go to war, whose head should be chopped off, but not in our system. The Raja's job is to defend the country. But the policy will be made by those who think. People who made money, nothing wrong with it. But their social prestige came only when they gave more than they needed, that portion of the wealth which was more than they needed, to the society. Philanthropy. That's how our system worked. And we have lost the way. Today, on the name of one-dimensional materialism, we have locked ourselves in. To what? To greed. Greed means corruption. Society will be corrupt if money becomes the deciding factor in structuring the society. Your rank in society depends on how much money you have. Then greed will come. By hook or crook, let me make money. I had this student at IIT, very bright student called Rajat Gupta. He asked me for a recommendation to go to Harvard. I gave him a recommendation. He went to Harvard Business School, became slowly rising to head of McKinsey, then of Goldman Sachs. And one day in jail, today he's in jail, like Ms. Jayalalitha. And in one sense, both are in jail because of me. Jayalalitha because of my criminal complaint, which I never gave up. And in case of Rajat Gupta, it was by accident. I had been telling the Americans, ban LTT, ban LTT. They banned LTT. Then the American official asked me, are you happy now? I said, no, because you haven't banned the sister organizations of the LTT. For example, the Tamil refugee organization, so you banned that also. And finally, they must have done their own intelligence analysis and came to the conclusion it should be banned. They banned it. Then they looked at the accounts and they found that this Tamil refugee organization, rehabilitation organization, refugee organization, was getting $1 million from a man called, he was a stockbroker in New York Stock Exchange. Rajaratnam, yeah. And $1 million a year. So normally the American FBI is not allowed to tap stockbrokers' telephones because then they can find out which stocks to buy, which stocks to sell. So they put him on the terror, on the grounds of terror, they put him on a telephone watch. And poor Rajat Gupta came out of a board meeting of Goldman Sachs and said, Goldman Sachs has decided to sell so and so. So Rajanathan immediately told his people, sell off these stocks, and made a cool profit. Got caught. Now, of course, there's a book written by one Indian girl, I forget her name, which is worth reading, where she quotes about how Rajaratnam was my student and how it was my recommendation which got him into Harvard, all that. But she quotes the judge, Manmohan Singh, X, Y, Z, all top people wrote to the judge, please don't convict him. That's a very small thing. So the judge says, I've got all these letters and all the wonderful work Mr. Rajat Gupta has been doing. But a man who has risen to such high status and won the confidence of so many people, for him to commit this crime, all the more reason for me to convict him, and I'll give him the strongest possible sentence. And he gave him 3 years in jail. And why? Because Rajat Gupta was greedy. I asked his relatives in New York, why did he do this? And they said he wanted the maximum number of zeros after one of all Indians. He wanted to be the richest Indian abroad. What is this? This is greed. And therefore he became corrupt. Now, I think therefore, you must understand that if you want to create a new society, work, make money, all that, but up to a point. After that, society. In that, you pick and choose what you can do. If you can give scholarship to one person, that itself is a big thing. If you can donate to a school, big thing. If you can collect all your alumni and start a university, even better thing. There's so many things to be done. We can't rely on the government to do these things. It has to be done by individuals. And then only our society will go. Our society As that's why our religion has grown despite there being no pope-like figure, no church-like institution, no book like Bible or Quran. And yet this religion has continued for centuries and centuries because it is interlocked by arguments. And that is the greatness of this society. Why we are today a democratic country is because of this tradition built into our cultural ethos and religion. So I am telling you, you got a huge future ahead of you because India is going to grow very fast. It's only a year or two. After that, we'll start growing at 8, 9, 10, and may even go up to 12. You grow at 12% per year for just 2 decades, you're in the American league. You find new innovations like hydrogen fuel cells for automobiles, electric power from thorium, shale oil. It's all these things are all open to you. India will be transformed. But then you must be a new Indian. That is the thing. Japan is a very prosperous country, but the Japanese psyche has completely been dented. It's not considered a power today. Chinese are not that prosperous, but the mindset with the Chinese demonstrates that is the strength of China. Same thing with the Americans. The inventiveness, the innovativeness, the readiness to accept the other person's argument if he is convinced by it. These are things which have made them a different people. So today, you audience rather, people like you constitute 70% of the Indian population. Or rather 70% of the Indian population below the age of 35. And this is the most research-minded section of our society. And it is this which can transform the Indian situation. We have seen in our society changes which we may not recognize. In the 70s, it was railway reservations was a huge headache, I know it. You couldn't get a ticket without bribing the ticket counterman, the ticket collector, the station master, and you could change your waiting list up and down. Today it is vastly reduced. You can find out your position from a SMS. And corruption has come down very quickly. Therefore, our society is capable of this change. We have seen, be the agent of change, motivate others for change, be risk takers, but that risk should have sanction of those who might be affected by your failure. If you get married, please keep your wife in the picture. Or if the wife is the entrepreneur, she should keep her husband in the picture. So we are a society where both men and women are equal. So you see the competitive exams, it looks as the women are going to overtake the men. You be careful of this for the future. And this is also a tradition, because in Brahma's cabinet, the 3 most important portfolios are held by women. Defense, Durga; finance, Lakshmi; education, Saraswati. And I searched whether any male god got anything, and I found that information broadcasting was given to Narad Muni. And when the men failed, they went and begged Durga, "We can't defeat these demons, please help us." And that's how Kali came up. So this is the tradition, and what you see today is disgusting, is deplorable, the treatment of women. All of you want to take a step forward, take an oath that you will never accept dowry when you get married. Take that as an oath. So all this country today needs is social change. We have demonstrated our capacity everywhere in the world today collectively to think as Indians and think in terms of problem solving. This is the most important contribution you can make to remake India as world number one. Thank you very much.
Thank you for such an engaging speak, sir. I think all of us were spellbound for the last hour and a half. Our audiences had some questions they would like to ask you. So you broadly touched a lot of themes that they asked us about, so we'll try to cover themes which weren't covered. So you spoke about corruption, about how one can avoid being corrupt. But as I think a lot of us admire your determination in going against corruption, what is the biggest hurdle you have faced and what keeps you going?
Corruption is like a cancer. Look at the things, I'll try to make it as short as possible. It's a big question, but I'll try to simplify it. First of all, because of corruption, you get substandard products. Your roads are terrible. Why? Not because you can't build roads. We build the best roads in the world. You go to Nigeria, go to Malaysia, go to Iraq, we built the best roads. And even in India, where the corruption is not there in building of roads, they've done wonderfully. From Delhi to Noida, it looks like a highway from America. Or this Taj Expressway. And that was built by Mayawati. That's really something, you know. So, you get substandard products. That keeps me growing. I want the best quality that money can buy. So I don't want adulteration. And there's adulteration in all along the way. And you can't do anything about it because the people who are to prosecute you themselves are corrupt. And therefore the process gets, everybody says, chalta hai. Second thing, when you have black money, what do you do with it? Partly you send it abroad. Partly you use it in your country to build houses, luxurious houses, build, buy all the fancy equipment that you need in the house, every room having, including the bathroom, having air conditioning, that sort of thing. And what is the impact of this? The rate of return of these industries start going up in relation to the common man's goods production industry. And therefore, the investment moves out. Why should the investor thinks, why should I be making common man's goods? I'll make all these luxurious items where I'll get 25% return. And today, 70% of our investment is directly or indirectly going into luxury production. What a lopsided investment priority for a country with so many poor people. Third thing is that corruption, when your policy is changed, for instance, we brought in this policy of forward trading in agriculture. What is the impact of that? The industrialists, the rich people who have black money go to the wholesale market, the farmer accepts rupees. And there's no accounting for it because there's no income tax for agricultural incomes. And buys the produce in wholesale, puts it in cold storage, creates an artificial shortage, raises the price. And when the price really goes truly high, he brings it out. And that's why agriculture prices are now going like that. The economy is totally destabilized. Then the money you send abroad, you send through Hawala. Hawala means Dubai. Dubai means ISI of Pakistan. No Hawala agent can send your money to Switzerland and other places unless he gives the full data to the ISI of Pakistan. Where you put in money, whose money you put, and in what is the password for that account. And today, I will say frankly, that Pakistan has the capacity to blackmail many of our leading politicians because of this factor. Look at the cancerous effect on this. There are other aspects of it too, but I would say, therefore, we have to fight corruption. How do you fight corruption? 3 ways. First, where there is computerization possible, like if somebody wants a form from a government, he should not go to a government office. Because if he goes there, then the chapadasi has to be bribed. Then he has to be told, go and wake up the Saab. The Saab needs another 100 rupees to wake up. Money goes this way. If you can bring it down as a downloaded printing, you can reduce it. They did it with railway reservations. Second is, catch the big people and throw the book at them. That's the American way. They caught Martha Stewart for doing a very small, I'm sure many of you have heard of Martha Stewart. She used to come on TV for cooking and so on. She was a multimillionaire. She was in a party, she overheard a stockbroker telling another stockbroker that this particular company is going to fold up. She didn't ask him or he didn't tell her. She overheard it. She went home, called up her stockbroker and told him that, sell the stocks of this company. So the company next day collapsed and she had in the meantime sold. And then the investigators started looking at who are the people who sold out in the last minute and found Martha Stewart's name. So they investigated and found that she had indeed overheard this and she used it. And they put her in jail for insider trading. I asked people, how can you put Martha Stewart in jail for a thing that she overheard? They said because she was in high places, she should have known better, and therefore we have to set an example. Today, if I catch, now I caught Jayalalitha, I'm going to keep her there for a long time. But I am also working on sending Sonia and Rahul. Hopefully by Christmas. In fact, the jail superintendent of Tihar jail is known to me. He was jokingly asking me, pizza order karna hai ki nahi? Anyway, I catch these people, people get scared. I've never found it necessary to pay 1 rupee bribe to get anything done. Because the moment I come, they know my name. Baap re baap iska kaam kar dena hai. That is the way. So you catch big people. They will say it's politically motivated, this, that. Some people say, arey, too harsh. No, it's not. After all, what is it? No, the bigger the person, the bigger should be the punishment. And third, develop this attitude that money is a means to an end and not an end. The society should not regard money as a means of making your social status. This is why I said that sacrifice is respected. And that is why when the ancient travelers came, they declared India is the most honest country in the world. Hasian came from China. So many people came. They said it because we do not value money when we look at a person's social status. So these are the reasons why I keep going. I have one birth defect. I have never been afraid of anything. So if you want to fight corruption, don't be afraid of anything. Otherwise, you can be scared off, you can be threatened, they can do a lot to make your life miserable. But because of the fact that they know that I will not bend, and another factor is that I publicize my enemies, but I never publicize my friends. So they don't know where my friends are. Next question.
So I think in the interest of time, we'll make this the last question.
Yeah, you can send me an email.
Sure. So another question was on the power of social...
Don't send me a female, send me an email.
Yeah, so there tends to be a lot of things that go viral, and it's very easy to be perceived as incendiary. So as someone who has a very strong social presence, what do you think about the influence of social media? And part 2 is, how do you moderate social media?
It'll moderate itself. You don't attempt at moderating. But I I think that, you see, one of the things I found with social media is that whenever I wanted a document, I would call them patriotic tweetbles. PTs, can you find this? And within less than 6-7 hours, somebody would tweet where the document is. I wanted to know which is the summons sent to Narendra Modi. By the way, that summons is all useless. Huh? I've studied the law once. This mental case called Karthi Chidambaram, son of P. Chidambaram. He went into Singapore and filed a defamation case against me. So a summons came. People say, Babreba, don't go to Singapore because they're, they are very ruthless, those courts. So I looked at the law and found that we have in our Civil Procedure Code a provision where the Indian courts can tell the foreign courts, mind your business, we are staying it, you don't get into this. Where something can be prosecuted in India, the Indian courts have a right to tell the foreign court, mind your business, we are injuncting you from proceeding further, and they have to listen to it. So I have suggested that the Attorney General goes to an Indian court and tells the American court, mind your business, this is a Gujarat affair, we can manage it here, we got courts to do it, and we are injuncting it. So I am saying, therefore, that I was on what issue? Your social media issue. Therefore, I am saying that I got a copy of this summons within 3 hours. So I think because educated people are there, it will take a little time. I would certainly say that we should try and use non-abusive language to the extent possible. But there are also people who are put in there to irritate you, develop a thick skin, and block them if necessary, but use as much as possible civilized language. It is the medium of the future. Just like television has put the print media in trouble, social media will put television in trouble, I can tell you.
We would like to thank Dr. Swamy for accepting our invitation and telling us how to take each Indian a step ahead. One important takeaway, among others, is to make everyone feel that they belong to the soil of this country and feel they are inheritors of the Indian culture. For us students in particular, we learned how to not be disappointed in life, and we also learned about other intelligences like emotional and social intelligence. Thank you so much, sir. We would like to present to you a small token of our gratitude.